At the beginning of the story, we are introduced to a poor man named Juk, who has worked hard to survive ever since he was a child. Juk has lived alone since his biological parents abandoned him, forcing him to experience the harsh realities of life from a very young age. Juk is a quiet person and very naive when it comes to love. Even now, as an adult, he has never been in a relationship. His poverty has made people avoid getting close to him. One day, out of the blue, a wealthy city girl suddenly asks him to marry her. Her name is Hyung. The story then flashes back. Hyung is a smart woman who works at a large and well-known company called Kdrama Education. She has worked hard for many years alongside her boyfriend, Vuya. The two of them once promised to succeed together. One day, Hyung attends the wedding of her boss's child. To her shock, she sees Vuya, her longtime boyfriend, marrying the daughter of one of the company's top executives. Her heart is shattered by this betrayal, as Vuya chose money and power over love. Things get worse for Hyung when she has to witness Vuya being promoted at work as a result of his betrayal. In a moment of anger, she blurts out that she will get married soon too. Unfortunately, her coworkers overhear her and immediately congratulate her, thinking it's true. This puts Hyung in a difficult position. Depressed and under pressure, she feels she can't back down and must actually get married. That's when she asks Juk, a complete stranger, to marry her. Juk initially ignores her and even thinks she's crazy. Meanwhile, Hyung continues to feel desperate as she tries to find someone to marry. Hyung lives with her two younger siblings, Nam Jaeon, a novelist, and Hee-sung. The two siblings are orphans who were taken in by Hyung's biological mother. At home, Hyung talks to her siblings about her plan to get married, although she still has no partner. Her siblings suggest she try a dating app to find someone quickly. Coincidentally, she matches with someone willing to marry her right away. The next day, Hyung starts booking a venue and catering for the wedding. Meanwhile, Juk, while working, encounters a thug buying cigarettes. Juk notices the thug's phone screen showing Hyung's profile on a blind date app. In response, Juk deliberately drops the thug's phone, damaging it so it shuts off. Later that evening, Juk waits outside his shop for Hyung to pass by. As she usually does, when she walks by, he approaches her to confirm her feelings, and at that moment, Juk tells her he is willing to marry her. Hearing that, Hyung is overjoyed. She even immediately takes Juk to try on wedding clothes. While they're selecting a wedding dress, Hyung's ex, Vuya, suddenly shows up with his wife, Yi-lin. Vuya mocks Hyung, claiming she could never fool anyone into marrying her, because, in his eyes, no man would ever want her. To everyone's surprise, Juk appeared wearing a wedding suit, which made him look even more handsome. Everyone was captivated by his appearance, especially Vuya, who suddenly felt jealous. The next day, Hyung began handing out her wedding invitations. She even invited Mr. Jun, the head of the company where she worked. While handing out the invitations, Hyung's friends asked her how Juk had proposed. The question left her speechless. As if that wasn't enough, Vuya deliberately asked about her engagement ring. Again, Hyung could only stay silent. However, she firmly stated that she truly was getting married. After work, Hyung asked Juk to record a proposal video together. Unfortunately, Juk refused and even kicked her out. Left with no choice, Hyung tried to make several proposal videos on her own. Sadly, her younger siblings said the videos looked fake and that no one would believe them. Meanwhile, Juk received a message from a girl named Yukyuk, inviting him to move to Canada with her. Feeling uncomfortable, Juk told her that he was about to get married and asked her to leave him alone. That day, Hyung went to rent a ring from a jewelry store. When she went to find Juk, he was nowhere to be found. She accidentally got locked inside the store with the lights off. In the middle of that dark moment, a small light appeared, leading her to a sweet surprise, a marriage proposal made from jelly. Moments later, Juk arrived and officially proposed to Hyung, asking her to accept his proposal.
손님이 제일 좋아하는 거니까 하지. 가질 수 있어요.
While arranging the jelly letters, Juk explained that he also needed to get married so his ex-girlfriend in Canada would stop bothering him. Afterward, Hyung gave him the ring she had rented. They agreed that 1 hour after the wedding, they would divorce and forget everything that had happened. On that quiet night, Kong Haejin, the heir of Kdrama Education, was shown. He accidentally found his mother's iPad and discovered that she had been reading adult romance novels. Upset, he left a harsh comment on the story, hoping to embarrass the writer enough to stop writing so his mother would stop reading those novels. Little did he know, the author was Jaeon, Hyung's adopted younger sibling. The next day, the long-awaited fake wedding between Hyung and Juk finally took place. The venue was filled with guests, including Hyung's mother, who pushed herself to attend her only daughter's wedding. As the ceremony began, Hyung's shoe accidentally slipped off, Juk helped her, and together they went outside to welcome the guests. When Juk hugged Hyung's mother, she looked genuinely happy, but deep down, Hyung felt guilty for lying to her own mother. After the ceremony ended, just as promised, Juk gave back the wedding ring and tried to finalize the divorce. However, at that exact moment, Vuya and Yilin greeted them, interrupting the process. Yilin asked which hotel Hyung would be staying at for her honeymoon. Hyung replied that she'd be going to a hotel provided by the company. Unfortunately, Vuya and Yilin were also going to the same hotel. Out of desperation, Hyung begged Juk to come with her to avoid raising suspicion. When they arrived at the hotel, Vuya and Yilin wouldn't leave them alone. They seemed determined to expose the fake marriage. They even booked a room right next to Juk and Hyung's, making it even harder for them to keep up the act. As Juk was about to leave, Yilin came out and invited them to have breakfast together the next morning. This made Hyung ask Juk to stay with her for just one night, promising to keep her distance. In the hotel room, they counted the wedding gift money together while listening to Juk's story. Juk revealed that he was born from an illicit affair between his biological mother and father. Since he was a baby, he had been left with his grandmother because his mother chose to flee to Canada, ashamed of having a child out of wedlock. From that moment on, he got used to living in poverty. He was even given only plain water when he should have been getting milk like other babies. Hyung was speechless after hearing his story. She never imagined someone could suffer so much from birth. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Jaeon felt deeply hurt after reading a hateful comment from Kang Haejin and reported it to the police for defamation. The next day, Juk took Hyung to the airport for a training trip in the United States, which was part of the requirements for her promotion. Before leaving, Hyung gave Juk payment for agreeing to the fake marriage. She told him to forget about her and pretend they had never met. On the plane, Hyung was surprised to find that Juk had returned the money. Inside the envelope was also a letter from Juk, wishing her success in reaching her dreams and happiness in her life. 3 months passed, and Hyung had successfully earned the position she had been aiming for. The first thing she did was proudly show off her new title to Vuya, stating that she achieved it without hurting anyone. When she went to visit Juk at the store where he used to work, she found only a new employee there. Juk was gone. Elsewhere, the defamation case reported by Jaeon had reached the court. Kang Haejin's father, Mr. Bak, was furious. He ordered Haejin to handle the issue himself, warning that if it wasn't resolved within a month, he would be removed as the heir to Kulbi education. Kang Haejin went to the police station dressed like a poor man to avoid recognition. Jaeon was also there, having finally seen the face of the person who insulted her, but when their eyes met, Jaeon panicked and ran away in fear. Days passed, and Hyung still hadn't heard anything about Juk. For some reason, she suddenly found herself thinking about him constantly. She also felt a little guilty, realizing that it was thanks to Juk that she was able to get promoted at Kulbi education. Meanwhile, Juk was approached by a mysterious figure who intended to take him somewhere unknown. The next day, Hyung officially took on her long-awaited position. That morning, Juk unexpectedly appeared at Kulbi education and said he had missed her. He also told her he would now be working at the company. Hearing that Juk would be working there frightened Hyung. She didn't want her co-workers to know that Juk was her husband, especially since she had previously told everyone her husband had died in an accident. Juk couldn't tell Hyung the real reason he was working there, but one thing was clear: he was being forced by someone else. If he didn't follow their orders, his mother in Canada would be in danger. Whatever was going on, Juk was now under the control of that mysterious person. While outside, Hyung accidentally saw a child who looked like he was in pain. When she approached him, she found the child covered in bruises from being beaten. Realizing that the child was likely abused by his parents, Hyung began recording the scene. Unexpectedly, The boy's father noticed what Hyung was doing and quickly intervened to stop her. Juk, who witnessed the situation, rushed in to help Hyung. Because of the scuffle, everyone was taken to the police station. Fortunately, a lawyer sent by the company arrived just in time to release Hyung and Juk. Surprisingly, the lawyer stated that he was sent specifically for Mr. Juk, not for Hyung. This shocked Hyung. She couldn't believe that a new employee like Juk was already receiving special treatment from the company. Juk himself was confused about the true reason he was required to work there. The only person who might have the answer was the mysterious man who had visited him the day before. Once everything was settled, Hyung treated the wounds on Juk's face. At that moment, her curiosity about who Juk really was grew even stronger. After Hyung left, the same mysterious man returned to pick Juk up. That man turned out to be Mr. Jang, a manager at Kulbi Education. Not only that, Mr. Jang gave Juk a luxury apartment, a credit card, and even a car to support his needs. When Juk asked what all this meant, Mr. Jang replied that none of it was his own doing. He was merely following orders from someone who was constantly monitoring Juk. Juk was told that he had to take over Kulbi Education from its current leadership. Meanwhile, Kang Haejin was summoned by his father, the current head of Kulbi Education. His father firmly warned him to resolve the issue involving his cruel comment toward Jaeon. If the case reached the public, he wouldn't hesitate to kick his son out of the company. According to him, running the company required true capability, especially since many people were eyeing his position. Just as Kang Haejin was about to sign an agreement, his mother stepped in and stopped him. She asked the court to include an additional clause. If her husband ever tarnished the company's reputation, all assets would be transferred to her. Back at the office, Juk surprisingly joined Hyung's team. This made Hyung even more nervous, as she feared people might suspect that Juk was her husband. Now holding a high position, Hyung used her authority to invite all her employees out for drinks. While drunk, Hyung threatened Juk, demanding that he never tell anyone he was her husband. To her, Juk was like a ticking time bomb that could destroy her career at any moment. Unfortunately, one of their colleagues overheard the conversation, but Hyung didn't notice. Despite scolding him, Hyung still asked Juk to drive her home. During the drive, Juk expressed guilt and revealed his intention to leave the company. He didn't care what might happen to him, he just wanted to protect Hyung, but at that moment, Hyung had fallen asleep and didn't hear a word he said. The next day, Juk planned to resign. However, before he could do so, he learned that Hyung had been summoned by the company's board. Someone had reported her for calling Juk a ticking time bomb, and now she was in serious trouble. The board decided to fire Hyung, but just before the decision was finalized, Juk suddenly appeared and held Hyung's hand, declaring that he was her legal husband. No one really knew how it happened, but all the company board members, who were known to be strict and unforgiving, suddenly believed Juk's words without hesitation, which saved Hyung from being fired. As a result, both of them were required to make an official statement. At first, Hyung couldn't say a word, but Juk skillfully came up with an excuse and explained why Hyung had said what she did. He said that he had made a terrible mistake as a husband, and it was understandable if Hyung claimed he had died. But now, their relationship had improved. Meanwhile, another problem struck Kang Haejin. His mother was furious and even threatened to take over the case herself. She said that with enough money, anything was possible, and she planned to drag Jaeon to court instead. Hearing her cruel plan, Kang Haejin refused, insisting that he was capable of resolving the issue himself. Elsewhere, Hyung, who had to continue the charade, went to buy the wedding ring she had previously rented. But to her surprise, the ring had already been purchased by Juk, for reasons unknown. This shocked Hyung and made her wonder if Juk had truly fallen in love with her. The next morning, Juk got ready for work, wearing the wedding ring. Before he left, Mr. Jang came to ask about the truth of Juk's marriage. Mr. Jang was upset that he had missed such an important piece of information. If he had known, he would never have allowed Juk to get married, especially to Hyung, whom he considered a power-hungry woman. Offended by the insult, Juk grew angry, but once again, he couldn't lash out at Mr. Jang, knowing he was just a messenger for someone else pulling the strings. Before leaving, Juk placed a hidden recorder to find out who was really behind it all. That morning, Juk picked Hyung up so they could arrive at work together, maintaining the illusion of their fake marriage. That day, they were scheduled to present their team's project proposal. But before that, they needed to inform Kang Haejin, who was the project leader. At that moment, Mr. Jang arrived and informed Kang Haejin that the defamation case with Jaeon had been resolved, and that Jaeon had agreed to settle. Juk, hearing this, immediately realized Mr. Jang's real motives. He had also listened to the recording he planted, revealing that Mr. Jang was working directly under the CEO of Kulbi Education, Bak Yu, who was also Kang Haejin's father. Later, Juk and Hyung presented their project plan. They succeeded in convincing the investors, and their plan was approved. As a reward, the CEO of Kulbi Education invited Juk and Hyung to dinner, giving Juk the chance to finally meet the man who had been watching him all this time. At that dinner, Juk finally understood the CEO's true intentions. Bak Yu, the head of Kulbi Education, turned out to be Juk's biological father who had abandoned his mother after she gave birth. Now, Juk realized that his father's plan was a form of redemption, to make up for his past mistakes. During the dinner, Bak Yu questioned Hyung as if he were her father-in-law. Frustrated, Juk interrupted and revealed that he had a painful past. He was born to a woman betrayed by a heartless man who had abandoned them. His very birth had been seen as the ruin of his mother's life. Everyone fell silent. Even Kang Haejin's mother, the CEO's legal wife, sympathized with Juk. She understood that while most people see a child's birth as a blessing, in Juk's case, it had been treated as a curse, because of the actions of the man who fathered him. The dinner went badly because everyone ended up getting drunk. The next morning, Juk told Mr. Jang that he was going to leave the apartment. He also said that he didn't want to know who his father was. What he really wanted to know was why his father had abandoned him and his mother instead of taking responsibility. That day, Hyung let Juk stay on the rooftop of her house. She did it on purpose so it would look more realistic that they were really married. Hyung also felt sorry for Juk, who had to walk a long distance every morning just to pick her up, so she gave him the rooftop room to stay in. The room wasn't unfamiliar to Juk. Inside, he found an old photo of himself with Hyung's mother from 10 years ago. It was revealed that Juk had been raised by his grandmother since childhood, but before she passed away, his grandmother entrusted him to Hyung's mother. Elsewhere, Jaeon met with Kang Haejin, who was finishing the last task required for their reconciliation agreement. But in that moment, not wanting his assistant to see them, Kang Haejin grabbed Jaeon and ran off with her. Jaeon felt happy. She finally got to relive a part of her childhood. That moment even began to open up a soft spot in Kang Haejin's heart. While at work, Kang Haejin couldn't stop thinking about Jaeon. Meanwhile, Hyung invited all her co-workers to a party at her house. She did this to make their fake marriage look more convincing. After the party, Juk helped Hyung clean up. In a quiet moment, Hyung apologized, saying that because of her, Juk couldn't live freely. She even suggested that he should start dating someone else, and that she wouldn't mind getting a divorce so Juk could be free from this fake responsibility. Feeling awkward, Juk went up to his room. Inside, he stared at their fake wedding photo with deep emotion. At that moment, Hyung suddenly came in and kissed him without saying a word. She claimed it was just because Vuya was spying on them. But Juk didn't accept that explanation. He said he also had the right to decide whether their kiss meant nothing. Then, without asking, he kissed her again. Because of that, the next day Hyung was furious with Juk. She didn't hold back and even started bullying him. When that wasn't enough, she stormed into his room, only to find that the room was empty except for their wedding photo. Feeling guilty, Hyung began to realize that she might truly have feelings for Juk. In another place, Jaeon officially made peace with Kang Haejin. But during that moment, she accidentally saw her biological father. Shocked, she quickly ran off, pulling Kang Haejin with her. It turned out that Jaeon's biological father was a former convict who had been jailed for manslaughter, and now he was free. Meanwhile, Juk, feeling guilty for kissing Hyung, wrote a note and promised he wouldn't kiss her again. But instead of being happy, Hyung got even more upset and started hating him. Later, Hyung took Juk out shopping for mattresses, trying different ones to find the most comfortable. During this time, she was charmed when Juk admitted he liked her. Hyung then asked Juk to wait. She would be ready to date once she could stop worrying about her work and position. Juk, of course, was happy and said he would wait as long as needed. After that, Mr. Jang suddenly came to see Juk. He told him that he had been fired because Mr. Bok's wife had found out Juk's true identity, as the child from an affair. Now, Juk had to act quickly to protect himself and his wife, Hyung. Juk chose not to dwell on it, he only cared about his feelings for Hyung. While they were kissing, Kang Haejin suddenly showed up in a panic, asking if it was true that Juk was his father's biological son. Everyone was shocked, especially Hyung, because she had now become the wife of the firstborn son of Kulbi Education's chairman. Feeling threatened, Kang Haejin didn't hesitate. He immediately fired both Juk and Hyung and firmly declared that he alone would be the sole heir of Kulbi Education. Kang Haejin then rushed to confront his father, who was being scolded by his wife after she had just found out that her husband had an illegitimate child from an affair. Back to Juk and Hyung, instead of being sad or disappointed about being fired, Hyung felt even more motivated. She truly hoped Juk could take over Kulbi Education from Kang Haejin. The next day, Kang Haejin's threat came true, Juk and Hyung were officially fired. Juk was furious with the decision, he even boldly confronted Kang Haejin, begging him not to fire Hyung because she had nothing to do with this. Juk also promised to divorce Hyung immediately so that she wouldn't be affected. But Kang Haejin replied that he didn't care about Hyung, what he wanted was for Juk to leave the country forever. In fact, he wished Juk would die full of regret. Despite the chaos, Hyung stood by Juk to encourage him. She told him she didn't mind being fired, all she wanted was for Juk to fight and take what rightfully belonged to him. To lift their spirits, the two decided to take a vacation together. They visited several places, and during that time, Hyung finally opened up and shared a deep secret: her father had died after being murdered. Elsewhere, Jaeon was frightened when she saw her biological father, a former convict, show up at her house. Back to Hyung, she received news that Jaeon's father had been released from prison. She rushed to Jaeon's house, fearing for her sister's safety. And her fear was valid, someone was holding Jaeon tightly. Juk quickly stepped in to stop the man, but it turned out to be Kang Haejin. Everyone was shocked, especially Hyung, who had just learned that her sister knew Kang Haejin. Kang Haejin then explained how he first met Jaeon and finally confessed that he had fallen deeply in love with her. Hyung was furious, but even Jaeon admitted that she loved Kang Haejin too. Hyung scolded Jaeon, but Jaeon quickly clarified that even though she loved Kang Haejin, she knew she could never be with him because their social statuses were too far apart. Meanwhile, in Juk's room, the two half-siblings made peace. Juk even gave up his bed and slept on the floor so his younger sister wouldn't feel cold. The next morning, Hyung warned her boss Kang Haejin not to come near her sister again. She threatened that she wouldn't hesitate to take him down if he kept forcing his intentions. However, Jaeon, unable to deny her feelings, kept meeting with Kang Haejin. She even asked permission to do research at Kulbi Education for her next novel. Kang Haejin was thrilled, and the two spent time alone in the nearly empty company office, eventually sharing an intimate moment. Meanwhile, Hyung was heartbroken upon hearing devastating news: Juk was leaving the country for good. At first, Hyung pretended not to care, but after Juk left, she couldn't hold back her tears. However, to her surprise, Juk hadn't really left and ended up discovering Hyung's true feelings for him. In the end, they finally shared an intimate moment after half a year of being married. Back to Jaeon and Kang Haejin. After sharing a romantic moment, Jaeon firmly stated that the kiss would be the first and last, because she had decided to let go of her love for Kang Haejin. At the same time, Hyung's happiness didn't last long. She accidentally discovered that Juk was actually one of the orphans raised by her biological mother. Feeling betrayed by Juk, she left and refused to see him again. Later that night, after both Hyung and Juk had gone, Jaeon's biological father managed to break into the house. He tried to kill Jaeon, but luckily Kang Haejin, who was on his way to visit her, arrived just in time and stopped him. Jaeon was saved. As the police took Jaeon's father away, Hyung and Juk arrived at the scene. It was then that Hyung realized Jaeon's father was the man who had murdered her own father. Jaeon immediately confessed that she had known the truth for a long time, but her mother had asked her to keep it a secret. Now she was ready to accept being kicked out by Hyung. But Hyung wasn't that cruel. She knew that Jaeon wasn't at fault, and told her not to blame herself anymore. Kang Haejin and Jaeon were hospitalized after the incident. While at the hospital, Jaeon apologized, saying it was her father's fault that Haejin got hurt. But Haejin didn't mind at all. What mattered most was that he truly loved Jaeon, even after learning the truth she had kept hidden. They shared another kiss, marking the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. Meanwhile, at a different place and time, Hyung was woken by a phone call with devastating news: her biological mother had passed away. Everyone mourned her death, including the orphans she had raised. She was buried next to Hyung's father, who had passed away earlier. In the quiet of the night, Juk was seen packing his suitcase and leaving the house. This happened because earlier that day, after the funeral, Hyung had let him go. She even took back the wedding ring and wished for Juk to find his freedom and happiness. Days passed. One day, Kang Haejin invited Hyung to go to the airport with him because Juk was flying to Canada that day. Hyung acted indifferent, not because she didn't care, but because she didn't want to bring more sadness into Juk's life. 6 months went by. Kolbe Education grew rapidly and attracted many investors. Amid this success, Hyung decided to resign and start her own company. But starting a business required a lot of capital, so she was forced to sell her late mother's old house. Unfortunately, the person who came to buy it turned out to be Juk, who had returned, accompanied by a woman. Meanwhile, Jaeon was finally able to enjoy true happiness, as Kang Haejin officially proposed to her, telling her that his parents had now approved of their relationship. A few days later, because Hyung failed to sell the house to Juk, she begged Kang Haejin to invest in her company. Kang Haejin laughed at the idea of the company that was supposed to rival Kolbe Education now begging for investment. But fortunately, he still agreed to invest in Hyung's business. In the midst of that happiness, she accidentally overheard a rumor that Juk had returned and was about to get married. Hyung was shocked. She felt deeply saddened and disappointed by the news. She even visited the shop where Juk used to work, the place where all the memories began, memories she had never fully experienced before. Hyung couldn't hold back her tears as she recalled everything. In the middle of her fragile emotional state, Juk appeared and handed her a wedding invitation. Hyung could only congratulate him and wish that his future wife would take good care of him. She walked away with a broken heart. Feeling guilty, Juk immediately chased after her and pulled her back. He told Hyung that he truly loved her and always would. He added that the wedding invitation was for his younger sister's wedding, not his. Juk had no plans to get married. He revealed all of this while drunk, unable to stay conscious any longer. After saying those words, Juk passed out. Hyung brought him home and lay beside him as he slept, but sadly, when morning came, Juk was gone again. Hyung didn't want to lose him. Like someone in a panic, she searched desperately for Juk. When they finally met, Hyung confessed her true feelings, and at last, they got back together. And so this Korean drama ends, wrapped up with a pretty happy ending. That's the story for today. Thank you for staying with me until the end. See you in the next video. Adios.